Howdy, Beefalo Bart here, and we're going to finish out with video 5, and I'm going to call it a day. That's 5 videos in one day about this, and yeah, okay. So what I would like to get accomplished is, first off, let's review what we have. We got Kermit. You pick up the pistol, it goes on the hip. Pick up the MP5, goes on the back. Pick up the AK, goes on the back. They look horrible, but oh well, they're there. They work. Yay. So, we need to start getting ready for the ability to transition them to going in your hands. And as you notice, we're in third person view, and that's cool. I mean, that's fine. But one of the things we're going to need to do is create a first person view. But we're not going to get rid of third person. We're going to keep this view and add in a first person view on top of that. So we're going to go to our blueprint folder for the character, player_base, and we don't need to have that one open. Those are lovely. So here's what we're going to do. Before we get involved in this too much, let's go ahead and create a new key binding. We're going to go to Edit, Project Settings, scroll down, go to Input, open this. We are going to create a new action mapping and view selection. And for now, I'm going to bind this to the V key. V as in Victor. All right. So now, when we hit the V key, we'll be able to cycle through from third person to first person view. So we can go ahead and close that, go back into player_base, and I'm apparently getting some wife aggro on the phone here. So we're going to come over here, and we are going to, first off, we have the follow camera and the camera boom. Those are lovely. But what we're going to do is we're going to go to the viewport. We are going to make sure we are clicked on the mesh. And here's what we are going to do. We are going to add a component, a camera, and we're going to call this FPS camera. Okay. Now, while we have that selected, we need to scroll down. We need to find a certain checkbox, auto activate, and uncheck that. We don't want this to automatically come on and start working as soon as we, bring it around. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the camera up. I am going to rotate it 90 degrees. I'm going to go back and I'm going to raise it up even farther. And for some reason, a lot of times when I'm doing this, it loves to absolutely annoy the living crapple out of me. But what we want to do is we want to, first off, with that head bob, we got to fix that. But we also have to, we want to attach it to the player, or the character model, so that it will move independently with them. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this little arrow next to perspective. And I am going to uncheck real time. And that's going to freeze him in place. It's going to stop him from moving around and being a butthead. Now, with the camera right there, we're going to scroll back up. Parent socket. We've attached it to the mesh. So let's click on the magnifying glass. And we were going to look for the head. Now, you can see what happened is it rotated the camera sideways for some unknown reason. And here's where it's going to start vexing me considerably. I'm going to roll this 90 degrees to get it back to where it should be. So now you can see that the little viewfinder piece that's on the camcorder, that nobody uses anything like that anymore. But let's go ahead and we're going to scroll it back over here, and we're going to pull it through the head. We're going to come up here a little bit more, try to bring it as close as we can to head level. We want to try to make it right between the eyes. Now, we're going to probably want to adjust this a few times here and there until we get it the way we like it. I'm going to move it to about right here, and then I'm going to go ahead and turn on real time again. Now, as you see, as he's moving around, it'll actually move with the head. So, although we don't have it usable just yet, what we're going to end up having to do is we'll go back to our event graph, and we're going to right click and view selection in the action event. And when we press the key, we want to add in what's called a flip-flop. What that means is whenever I hit V, it's going to change. When I hit V again, it's going to change to the other one. You can add, the two different options here and have it cycle between them. And we are going to drag in this so we get a reference to our FPS camera, and we're going to need a reference to our follow camera, and we're going to do this the correct way. Put the follow camera over here, and we are going to deactivate, and we're going to come from A to this, and then we're going to activate. So we're going to turn off one camera and we're going to turn on the other one. There, lovely. Okay, now just want to kind of position them wherever we can here. It's not going to be that big of an issue, but we're going to come over here and we're going to get FPS camera. We're going to get, this is just a regular left click, drag and drop. So now we want to drag from the FPS camera and say deactivate, and go ahead and connect that. And then we want to drag from follow camera and we want to say activate, and go ahead and connect that. And let's go ahead and drag this down a little bit. We'll drag you guys up just a little bit so it looks lovely, because everything has to look perfect, right? No, that's for me. Alright, it's close enough for government work. So what we've done is when we press the V key, it's going to deactivate the follow camera and activate the FPS camera. We hit the V key again, it's going to deactivate the FPS camera and activate the follow camera. Compile, save, and see how bad we broke it. How about that? Okay, it does switch, and it does switch back. So now we do need to make a couple changes really quickly. Now that we've done that, let's go ahead and click on our FPS camera again, and we need to use pawn control. It's one thing we're going to need to do. Now by selecting use pawn control, and I'm going to go ahead and compile and save, and we'll go back and see what that did. There's one thing that I need to do also that may screw the pooch on part of this. So everything still works good on this. And now, yeah, that's not good. We can look all the way around. So we need to do one more thing. And I know that we needed to do it, and I hate to do it the way that I've got to do it. But, alright. Now as you see, we're over here. We don't have anything selected, because we cannot get it from this, and it doesn't make a bit of sense. We have to utilize the yaw from the player control. And it won't let you do it through here, which would make sense. So click on player base, scroll down, and I really hate having to use it here. If anybody knows another way I can do this, will be lovely. Use controller raw rotation yaw. Turn that box on, compile, save, and now let's see what that did. Now, unfortunately, it turns the whole character in this view. When I hit the V key, I can look down, I can see myself, yay. So I can walk over here, pick up the Glock, I can jump around, do all kind of stuff. I can go back into that, and now as I'm walking around, as I turn the mouse, it still turns the player around, but whenever I'm stationary, when I turn the mouse, it also turns the whole character. And it just means you're not going to be able to see yourself anymore, pan around and see your face. But, oh well. We have established that we can go from third-person view to first-person view whenever we frickin' want to. How about that? What kind of use is that? Well, I think it's kind of cool to have both. Why go one way or the other when you can have both? Your cake and eat it too. So, alright, that still doesn't put a gun in our hands. We need to put a gun in our hands. Well, we can't really do that just yet. So we're going to click on characters, and I'm going to right click, I'm going to add a new folder, and I'm going to call this animations. But we already have a folder full of animations. Yes, we do. To be able to animate our character with weapons, we need to have the animations and have them to be able to turn on and off. For that, we're going to need a Blendspace, and we're going to need an animation blueprint. So I'm just going to come over here where it's less cluttered, and I'm going to right click. I'm going to go to animation, come down to Blendspace 1D. We're going to kind of copy it the same way that UE4 in the default skeleton is working. So we need to select our UE4 mannequin skeleton, and we're going to call this rifle hip underscore BS, because it is a lot of BS. And we are on the SK mannequin. This is all lovely. We'll worry about changing everything else out later. So what we're going to need to do is we need to find the basic movements. We're going to find an idle, rifle, hip. So when you're not moving, you're going to be in the idle position. We got walk. And we need to find since you do have all these animations, it's a shame to not use them. Let's actually close this and delete that. I don't want to use a 2D. I'm going to right click. I'm going to go ahead and go back to animations. I'm going to create a regular Blendspace UE4 mannequin skeleton, and we're going to call this pretty much the same thing. We got rifle hip BS. Now when we go into it, we've got other selections here, and we're going to end up having to make some serious coding in later, and we're going to worry about that later. Pardon me, I always screw these up. Yeah, let's put speed on top. And maximum speed is going to be 600. And then we're going to do this one as direction 180, and you're just going to be a pain in my butt. Alright, well, we'll edit that portion of it later to get that part of it working. It does this to me from time to time because I usually forget something. it won't let me put in the information that I want. So I can't change. Alright, well, we don't want 600. We want this to be direction, this to be speed, and it's also going to keep being a pain in the butt. Alright, so negative 180, 180. 4 is good on your divisions. Interpolation, these are fine for now. So we just want direction is negative 180 to 180, and speed maximum we're going to put at 600. So now we'll get into doing aim spaces later. It's weird. I don't fully know how to do it just yet. So what we need is idle rifle hip, and we're going to go ahead and drag that onto all 5 slots down on the bottom. There's a reason whenever you have the animations, I like doing it this way. Let's see here. Go with jog left, jog right, which is jog RT, jog forward, and then you got jog backwards will go here and here. Now, we want to look for run animations, or in this case, it would be sprint. You know, sprint forward rifle. And now you can hold down shift and move your mouse around, and you can see that the higher you go up on here, the faster he runs. There we go. So do we have any run backwards or walk backwards? That's iron sights. So we just want from the hip right now. So this is good enough. I don't think there's anything else we can pull from on here. Yep, that looks good. I'm not worrying about firing animations or crouching. So that's good. You know, we can go backwards, left, right. We can do all these movements with this blend space now. And I'm going to go ahead and save this. We know that is rifle hip BS. The next thing we're going to need is animation, animation blueprint, and here we need to select our UE4 mannequin skeleton again. We're going to call this rifle hip AnimBP. Lovely. And I'm going to get into this a little bit, and probably running short on time for finishing out this video, but we'll start this animation blueprint. What we're going to want to do is, from our result, we want to drag over, and we want to add new state machine. Okay, this is how we're going to tell it to do what it does. So now I can double click on this. From the entry. Now, if we look at how Unreal Engine does it, come in here. From the default, you've got idle run. So you got your speed here. Now, what we can do is we can keep this open, and we can cheat a little bit and grab some of this stuff out of here. See, we have speed, but we don't have direction. What I'll do is I will do the direction portion later. So let's actually, for now, we're going to copy this stuff here. And that comes from the event blueprint update animation. We're going to go here, go to the event graph, come over here, and then I did a Control C. Now I did Control V so I can copy and paste. and I'm going to want to connect the executable to that pin here. I can delete that one. And as you see, it's going to give me an error. Speed and is in air are not visible. We don't care just yet. We're going to get to that. So from here, we want to copy what was in the state machine from here. If you look at default, it's called idle run. Well, let's go ahead and do something similar to that. We're going to left click on the arrow here. We're going to add a state, but we're going to call this walk and run. Doesn't really matter what you call it. You can call it two frogs in a tube sock. I don't care. But once you do that, you come in, double click on it, you come in here, and you want to find rifle hip BS. Connect your little guy to your little guy right there. You want to drag off from speed, promote to variable, and you want to call this speed. Drag that out of the way, and you want to drag off from direction and promote to variable, and want to call that direction. That's going to give you one of the two variables that you need for right now. So if you look back in your event graph, you got your speed now. So we need to create a Boolean variable for is in air. That's how it handles its jump. So we're just going to create a variable, is in air question mark. And let's see what happens when we compile. Yay, error's gone. So we can come back into here, and now that's good to go. So we can get into that. However, we want another node in between. So let's actually come to right back here again. We want to add a state. We want to call this idle. And from idle, we want to be able to transition. So I'm going to grab from the edge, and it can be a pain sometimes. We want to be able to go from idle to walk and run, and from walk and run back to idle again. Now, what they've done is, if you look, they're tying it into jump. And we can kind of screw around with this and use the same system. But we need to link this together. Now, I am a dyslexic person, so I'm going to probably screw this up the first time, and maybe even the second time. But to be able to go from your idle animation to your walk run, well, first off, let's go in here, double click on the idle, and let's go ahead, and even though there is an idle in the other animation, we probably didn't need to do that. But we're going to go ahead and do it this way. I might change it up later. We're going to get idle rifle hip, connect the two together. So now when you're not moving, it's just going to do that. So now when you go from idle to walk and run, double click on that node. You see where it says can enter transition. So we need to add something onto that. So we need to get our variable for speed. We get that. And in case you didn't know, this is a float. So we need to look for float modifiers. If your speed is greater than, and remember we're going from idle to walking. So if your speed is higher than, we'll just say 10, then you're able to go into the jogging and running. So, or the walking and running. So now we've got that one done. We need to do the reverse. on this one. So we need to get our speed, and then we need to check for the floats. If your speed is less than 10, then you can actually go into that. So we're going to compile, save. Now, the next problem we're going to run into is, how do you know whether or not you need to go into this animation or not? We'll cover that after we get into the next video, but essentially what it is, whenever you equip your rifle, if you look in your blueprint for your player base, remember how we did in the event crafts, MP5 picked up. Well, if MP5 picked up equals true, or if AKM picked up equals true, or you can use these that I created also, has AKM if that's true, or has MP5 is set to true, then what'll happen is you can use that switch to say, to use this animation blueprint. And like I said, we'll cover that in the next one, because we're going to also have to create the pistol animation blueprint and Blendspace. But we'll save that for the next video. That's going to give you your prep work for creating, and we'll do the rifles first. So once you pick up the MP5 or the AK, your character will automatically go from this unarmed state to the one where you're holding the rifle, and you'll have the correct animation. You'll be able to look down, see the rifle in your hands, and that kind of stuff. But at least we have two different views now. And yeah, we have some issues with interpolation there. But once you have the pistol, then you'll be able to, now it's on your hip. Nothing has changed, nothing will change. Same thing for these. When they're on your hip, you're still running around in unarmed mode. What we're going to end up doing is, when you hit the number 1 key, it will say draw out the MP5. You hit the number 2 key, it'll put the MP5 away and pull the AK out. You hit number 3, it'll put whatever rifles you have away and draw your pistol out. You hit number 3 again, and it'll put your pistol back in the holster, and you go back to this animation. It's going to be kind of complicated to explain, but I promise it'll work out, and it'll be lovely. So, thanks for watching, and catch me on the next one.